I think Trey Sermon is going to be very, very important down the road here for Philadelphia if they want to go ahead and use him, because it's only going to get colder. The conditions are only going to get worse. You're going to play outdoors in the playoffs because most of the dome teams right now aren't going to be hosting playoff games, right? You're going to be going to, well, hopefully all coming to Philadelphia, right? So I think Trey Sermon is grossly underutilized right now, and they need to go ahead and give him some more touches. They need to go ahead and give him some more carries. What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome into the Thomas Mott Show on a Wednesday. I see a lot of people down below in the comment section of this show on my Twitter account at @RealThomasMott asking, Thomas, why aren't we using this player? Why are we underutilizing that player? And finally, I decided to go through really the top 3 most underutilized Eagles so far this year. Now, they haven't necessarily needed them because Philadelphia is undefeated, but there are a couple players on both sides of the football that I really think Philadelphia should start getting into the mix, maybe giving them the football, giving them more plays in order to help keep this undefeated run going. Let's start with the number 1 most underutilized player that literally everybody talks about in my mentions, and that is Trey Sermon. Now, there's a great, I would say, website here from Pro Football Reference showing you the current snap count of the 2022 NFL season for every single NFL player. So, like Jalen Hurts, 98% because he's the starting quarterback. Miles Sanders, 60%. Kenneth Gainwell, 26. And then you see Trey Sermon. He has 1.41% usage so far on the Philadelphia Eagles. They don't even give him the football. They've given him 2 touches so far this year, and it's to the point that, like, either they don't like him, like maybe he stinks in practice, I don't know, but the fact they aren't even giving Trey Sermon a chance to go ahead and get a couple of touches each game makes absolutely no sense to me. Like, look at the numbers right now. First off, in San Francisco, he had 41 carries for 167 yards in 2021, so clearly he has not been utilized throughout his career, and maybe that is because he's not as good as we like to think that he is. But in Philadelphia, since coming over a couple of weeks ago now, 2 carries for 19 yards. And that's an average of 9.5 yards per carry. And you would think that a Philadelphia Eagle football team that could use kind of that thicker bruiser of a running back would utilize Trey Sermon a lot in these go-to-go situations, these 3rd down and 1s. But for whatever reason, it has been purely the Miles Sanders and then really, I guess, Kenneth Gainwell show. And I love Miles Sanders. He should be number 1. And I think they're trying to go ahead and utilize Kenneth Gainwell as much as possible, but it's clearly not working. Kenneth Gainwell is not producing at a rate that you would like out of your number 2 running back. Look at your rushing numbers right now. Miles Sanders, of course, fantastic. Will be a 1,000-yard rusher this year. That's great. Feed him the rock. Give him 2/3 of the carries during a normal NFL game. But after that, your second leading rusher is Kenneth Gainwell. Don't even get me started on Boston Scott. They don't even use Boston Scott. Why not give the football to Trey Sermon just a couple of times a game, right? I mean, start 3 times a game, then bump it up to 5 times a game. Then, if he keeps impressing you, what about 4 times a game? What about 5 times a game? What about 8 times a game? I think Trey Sermon is going to be very, very important down the road here for Philadelphia if they want to go ahead and use him, because it's only going to get colder. The conditions are only going to get worse. You're going to play outdoors in the playoffs because most of the dome teams right now aren't going to be hosting playoff games, right? You're going to be going to, well, hopefully all coming to Philadelphia, right? So I think Trey Sermon is grossly underutilized right now, and they need to go ahead and give him some more touches. They need to go ahead and give him some more carries, not because they need him to win football games, but if you want to go on a really, really deep run in the postseason, running is going to be key, and I love the way Trey Sermon runs, and I love his build, and I think that right now he's grossly underutilized. Okay, we'll get to a defensive player next here in just 1 second. First, if you guys have not used the DraftKings link down below to bet on Philadelphia, I'm telling you, this is the week to do it. They take on the Washington Commanders on Monday night, and DraftKings has a crazy good promo right now through our link down below. Basically, you bet $5, you win 200 in free bets if your first moneyline bet wins. So if you're a brand new DraftKings subscriber, you create the account, you use my link down below, and then you just bet $5, you win $200 in free bets. So many people have said, well, because they bet on the Eagles last week to beat the Texans, just on the money line, that they got the $200 in free bets. They're pumped about it. I think you guys should jump in on this deal right now. If you've never done DraftKings before and you're in a legal state, it is a bunch of fun. You bet responsibly, and you just kind of go a couple bucks here or there, and you can win some money there betting on Philadelphia. And the promo right now is really good at DraftKings, so go down below. The Eagles are going to beat the Commanders, right? Like, put your money where your mouth is. You feel like they're going to do it. I think they will. Jump in on the DraftKings deal. Okay, back to our, we'll call it our underutilized chart here by Pro Football Reference. Another player, I know he's new. Where's Robert Quinn been? Seriously, like every single time they're on defense, I look through the defensive line and I'm like, where are the big long white sleeves? Where's number 98? They're not utilizing Robert Quinn. Now, this number is a little bit skewed. It says 5.13%. That's because he hasn't been there for every single week, and so the number is obviously down. It's not as high as it could be, but still, he's hardly getting utilized right now along this defensive line. They're not playing him enough. And now I'm not saying that they, immediately must thrust him into the fire and give him, 98% of the defensive end snaps. They clearly have other players in place who have played really well this year. Hassan Reddick, obviously Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat is still one of the best pass rush win rate guys out there. But I do think you need to up the usage of Robert Quinn because you got him to get you sacks, right? The whole idea of Robert Quinn is to get you sacks. And I know that he came off of 18.5 2 years ago, last year, and then this year it's been down. He only has 1 sack so far, but I think his numbers need to be popped up because he needs to be a big-time impactful pass rusher as, again, you get into January and hopefully February when you need a pass rush in cold weather to go ahead and sack the quarterback. Now, maybe they're trying to slowly introduce him to the defense. That's fine. Slowly get him going at the pace of a Jonathan Gannon, but he's a pass rusher, not like a linebacker where he has to kind of learn everything. You just go get the quarterback, right? You run a stunt. It's not that hard. I mean, obviously, I couldn't do it, but I'm just saying, it's not that hard from a defensive end perspective. Maybe they're trying to save his legs for a playoff run. That's fine, but I do think you need to utilize Robert Quinn. You went ahead and got him at the trade deadline, not to have him sit on the bench, to have him get after the quarterback. I want to see more numbers, more plays, and more sacks from a guy who should be one of your leading sackers by the end of the season. First, though, let's just credit Javon Hargrave because he has 6 sacks and leads the Eagles in sacks. He's been fantastic. He should be a Pro Bowler this year. One of the best pass rushing D tackles in the league, and we barely ever talk about him because of Reddick and Cox and Graham and all the rest of these guys on the defensive line. All right, back to our underutilized chart. I do think we need to mention, we're not going to dive deep into the numbers, but they're really not getting the football to Quez Watkins as much as you would like. Now, he's utilized in terms of actually being on the football field. His snap count is 50% of the offensive snaps, but his numbers have been way, way down. And when he gets the football, good things do happen. I think with a little bonus person on my list here, you need to get the football more to Quez Watkins, not taking away from A.J. Brown or taking away from Devontae Smith. Just making sure you're keeping him engaged and involved because his ability to take the top off the defense and run after the catch is still very high up there, and I think he could use a couple more targets a game, and we'll throw him in as a little bonus towards the end, obviously, here of this show. Okay, final player that I think we do need to utilize a little bit more, or at least talk about, is Nakobe Dean, the third-round draft pick out of Georgia, the linebacker. Now, he's been very much underutilized. In terms of starting snaps, not even 1% of starting snaps. He did go in this game on Thursday night. He did play. It was a goal line situation. They brought him in. He was kind of an off-ball linebacker, I think, to kind of be there in case a back were to sneak out of the backfield. I was like, oh my gosh, 17, right? He wears that weird linebacker number, 17, so you know whenever he comes in. They're not using him, though. And now I'm not going to make a massive argument here like I did for Robert Quinn or Quez Watkins or Trey Sermon. I think there's a very clear reason why they're not using Nakobe Dean. I just think there are some situations where you could get him in the football field or get him on the football field to hopefully start to get that progression into becoming a starting linebacker maybe next year or the year after. Like right now, you're not going to play him ahead of Kazir White or TJ Edwards. Like very clearly, TJ Edwards has been fantastic this year, and it'd be disrespectful and idiotic to bench him for a guy like Nakobe Dean. But I think there are some opportunities to go ahead and pull White off the football field and insert Nakobe Dean, especially when you're leading in these football games, especially when you get out these big leads like Philadelphia has had in some of these matchups. I think Nakobe Dean needs to get a little bit more actual linebacker play just so you can start the process of trying to get him to be the starting linebacker that we all thought Philadelphia drafted him to be. Again, not as big of a deal in terms of getting Trey Sermon touches or Robert Quinn more snaps or even throwing the football more to Quez Watkins, but I do think Nakobe Dean deserves to get a couple of more looks if he's as healthy and as good as he was supposed to be coming out of Georgia. Many people said a first-round draft pick. Why not give him at least the opportunity to get on-field experience in the National Football League? That way he gets up to speed in time for 2023 or maybe even 2024, depending on how long it's going to take. I'm really not that sure. Now, again, with everything I do, anytime I criticize Philadelphia, and no team is above criticism, but they are 8-0. So clearly they're doing something that is working. I'm just looking ahead to this schedule. You got the Packers coming up. You have 2 against the Giants. You got to go ahead and play the Commanders on Monday night. You got Dallas. You have Titans. You got a lot of good teams or a lot of pesky teams you're going to have to play, and I want to make sure this engine runs at 100% capacity, not 95% or 98%, hence why the thoughts about Sermon and Quinn, I think, are important and worth noting here on a Wednesday. day. Okay, I want to quickly go ahead and look at the divisional standings here in our National League story of the day. It's very interesting to see what the NFC is doing right now because you look at our division, you look at Dallas, you look at the New York Giants and the Washington Commanders. All three of these football teams are going to cause people trouble as you play them over the next couple of weeks. Now, what's interesting, too, is they're all going to play each other, right? Philadelphia has 2 against the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants have 2 against one against the Dallas Cowboys in Philadelphia. We have 2 against the Giants. Giants have 2 against the Cowboys. You guys still got to play the Commanders. This is going to be very different by the end of the year. It's not going to be this big cluster right now. I think Philadelphia is obviously going to win the division, but you're going to see more losses for the Giants, Commanders, and Cowboys because they're going to beat up on each other. That's kind of the beauty right now of not only leading the NFC East, but having a very good NFC East as well. There aren't free games or free wins for the Cowboys because they play the Giants twice a year. This division has gone to hell really, really quickly. I think all 3 of these teams are going to miss the postseason. Minnesota has been impressive. You give credit where credit is due, but you got to remember, for everyone who says Philadelphia hadn't played anybody, didn't they play the Minnesota Vikings and win in like really convincing fashion? I might have been, I don't know, I might have missed that game. I feel like that game happened, don't you? Thumbs up for Philadelphia beating the Minnesota Vikings. That was, it's funny to see people think that Minnesota's as good as Philadelphia right now. No, this is probably your NFC championship game. Like you would assume this is who you are going to play. And if it is, you like the matchup at the link, kind of repeat of 2017 where they, won and then won this shirt, which is pretty cool. Okay, the South is going to be a dogfight, but not a good one, right? It's not going to be an impressive one here. You're going to play one of these 2 teams in a wild card round, divisional round. Just doesn't feel like either of them are going to be that great. This feels like first to 9, maybe 10 wins is going to win the division. Tom Brady might have won on Sunday, but geez, that offense looks terrible. This is the pesky division, and it's pesky because of the top 2 teams. Rams and Cardinals, to me, are non-factors. Maybe the Rams sneak in. I don't see it happening, though, right now. I think they're going to be on the odd or the outside looking in. A lot of problems on the offensive line, and the offense itself doesn't do anything because they can't run the football, and it's just Cooper Kupp. These are your 2 big threats right now, to me, in the NFC. Seattle is a complete football team, and I was shocked to say, they didn't think about this yesterday, but you're looking at them. They run the ball great. Geno Smith doesn't turn the football over, and they have 2 really good receivers. And you forget that they have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, who are fantastic getting open and running after the catch and catching deep balls as well. This is going to be a really tricky divisional round game, I see. Same thing goes for San Francisco. I think they are a little bit less tricky. Yes, less tricky because it's Jimmy Garoppolo, and you don't know what quarterback you're going to get. But when they're healthy, they rush the passer very, very well. They run the ball with Christian McCaffrey, and they still have Debo. So these, to me, are your 2 big threats right now in the NFC. If you're not talking about the Vikings, when you look at what Philadelphia is going to have to face and what's upcoming for them here as we get closer and closer to December and closer to these games that are really going to have an impact on where the Eagles are at in not only playoff seeding, but who they play in the playoffs with a chance to go to the Super Bowl. All right, we're going to jump into plenty more stuff coming up next couple of days and weeks. Always give the show a thumbs up if you appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter as well, @RealThomasMott, and be sure to subscribe. You don't want to miss any sort of shows where we talk NFL, different teams, or we talk about your beloved Philadelphia Eagles, whatever it is. We mix things up here on the show, not just singularly focused, and I hope you guys enjoy that kind of style. For Thomas Mott, this has been Thomas Mott Show.